Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the law of attraction, Manifesting Success Stories show comes in. If you are ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello, and welcome back for another awesome episode with the Living Your Dream class of 2026A. This is a special opportunity where these amazing women can turn the tables and ask me questions. So let's start with Leslie.
So I'm asking a question today, which is something that I've probably asked before in different ways during our coaching calls, like maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
And you know what so I'll ask my question, but then I kind of have an answer already.
I love it.
Yeah. So my question was like, if I want more money, don't I need to take action? So in my current situation, I want to permanently increase my consistent income. And the way I currently think is that I need to do something to get the money. So I know it's not going to come from my current job. I'm kind of at the top of the salary rank, and I would have to find another job that pays more, or I would have to take a second job. None of those things are really anything that I want to do. And so I just keep on thinking like, well, I have to be doing something if I'm going to get more money. And so that kind of goes back to, this is how I'm answering the question is, oh yeah, now I'm thinking about the how. How is it going to happen? And that's a big no-no in law of attraction. And I get it on some levels, and on some levels I don't get it. Like, yeah. I think I get it where it's like so we had an assignment to find money, and not to go looking for it, but to find it. And I did find money, and that was pretty cool. Like, I didn't even think it would happen, and it did. And so it's like, okay, so do I just find this, larger source of income? Does it just, yeah, that's my question. It's like this whole thing of how, like, even if I'm not focused, I guess part of me thinks like, even if I'm not focused on, okay, well, I have to make that thing work in order to get the money. Like, I still have to be doing something. Otherwise, how will it even come about if I'm not taking any kind of action?
All right. So I love that you kind of caught this even at the end of our call. You're like, oh, this is a how. But you're still like, okay, I get that it's a how and this isn't the focus, but how will it happen, right? And so many ways. So the first thing that we do is we really even want to open up all the stories. So there was a little where you threw in there like, oh, I'm at the top of my pay band, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to point out like all the ways, I'm going to point out some ways to go gather some evidence, but I want to start there with that story, right? So even that puts that ceiling on us, like, oh, I'm at the top. Like when we tell the story, even if it's true today, doesn't mean it's true tomorrow, that's the top of your pay band for whatever, right? Things happen all the time. People here always like they get big raises out of nowhere. That was my story, right? I just decided at one point, I want a 20% raise. I didn't know the average raise at that point was like 3 to 4%. And I got it. And I didn't even know when raises came out, right? I didn't know if there was like, I was too new to even know like there was a system for this, that it was supposed to be. I just said, I'd like to get a 20% raise, right? And you can see evidence of this all the time in the Enchanted Circle. And so the how doesn't matter. And the more that we put like, well, how it's not going to happen that way, and it can't happen that way, and it can't happen that way, the more doors we're closing instead of opening, right? So our job is to stay open, and not tell stories that close the doors, and then just become the person. So as you become the person who has $10,000 more dollars, you also are becoming the person who has more and more money. You're learning how to be that person. You're learning how to be the person who has more than enough money because that money is coming in, right? And so that is what you do. That is like, it's not an official action, but the only action we take is to become more of that person who manifests $10,000, more of that person who receives money, more of that person who allows money to come in. And then we catch the stories like we talked about. And then we do is we build the evidence. You go on an evidence hunt for all that's true. So even as we've been recording these last couple of interviews, Nicole mentioned getting an audition out of nowhere she did nothing for, right? So when you hear someone say, I did nothing and this came and I got this, we're taking, oh, she didn't do anything except for become, right? Kate just had a client who, and even if you're, might say, oh, I'm not a coach or I don't have clients like that, but she had a client that, oh yeah, signed on for more, and another one that kind of came out of the blue, right? And so, and you can take Chana's evidence as well. Like, oh, I found $300 for this flight. That's money that's inspired. Either it just shows up or it comes in. And there's always evidence of that. That you can see in the Enchanted Circle. Oh, somebody called, oh, this check. And what happens is our brain very much is like, oh, but that was only a $136 check. But it was money that came out of nowhere, right? And so when we start to celebrate that, we're building more of that belief, so that belief, like, oh, money's just going to come, overtakes that, but I have to do a how and I have to do an action to get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. To listen to you say it and then to find myself putting into practice.
Yeah, and it takes practice. I remember on a call, we have coached on this before, and somebody who's been here for closer to 4 months, his light bulb went on. He was like, oh, wait, I just actually heard that when you said it to her. I think you've been saying it for months, but now I get it. I just have to do the work and then the money will show up. I just have to do, and the work being the work that we do, the law of attraction work, the work, manifest 10K, the assignments, right? And the becoming of the person. So yeah, it takes practice. If there's anything I would do, it would be to take get an extra highlighter or something on your evidence list for any time anything comes to someone and they use the words like Nicole earlier. I didn't have to do anything and it just showed up. And anytime you hear anyone say those words, I would even highlight it to build that story and that belief in your head, like, oh, it is possible, because we're inundated, like, oh, we have to do something. Money can't just show up, right? And so you've probably heard that for a long time. And so creating those new stories to create those new beliefs takes a little bit more paying attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any follow-up or anything I can make clear on that?
No, I'm just, as I'm listening to you, I'm just kind of reflecting on some like really ancient money programming in my life, and I got one story from my dad, which was work hard and make money. And I got another story from my mom, which was, well, I deserve this. So now I'm going to go into debt so I can have that.
Yeah. And so what's the story you want to write? What's the working title of the money story you want to choose instead of the one that's been given to you?
The working title is, I have all the money I need to live my life the way I want to.
Yeah. Yes. Those of you who are just listening, Nicole just gave a big cheer. That's amazing. Yeah. And when you start to live into that story, right, then you start to experience that. And either money is going to come from other ways, or money is energy. And so it has this magic way of becoming exactly what we need, sometimes when the dollar amount doesn't even change. Yeah. What was the title of that story again? I wanted to write it down. Do you remember?
Yeah. I have all the money I need to live my life the way I want to.
Yes. Yeah. All right. I'm excited that we get to watch you live into this story. How does that
Thank
feel?
you. I'm excited too.
Yay. Me too.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Oh, not to steal the show. One of our assignments is to listen to past calls.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one that I listened to from October today, and it was the coolest thing. Someone was trying to make a decision about leaving their job, and what you articulated was that they weren't yet pulled to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, I want to, but it wasn't a pull. And I have to go listen to it again because there was something there. But that was it. It was just a really big aha for me. It was because that person wasn't living into their future self when they were making that choice to leave the job. It was more of, well, I want to get away from that thing, but her future self wouldn't be wanting to get away from it. Her future self would be living a new reality.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of like, that's just kind of reflecting back on everything that we've been talking about, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Yay. Cool. Awesome. All right. Does that feel complete for now?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. Kate, should we go dive into your question?
So many things came up there with Leslie. Thank you. But open up awareness may have answered some things, but I'm still needing a little bit of clarity, I think.
Let's open it up. Let's do it.
So the question I was asking was, I'd like your guidance on keeping my higher vibration when people around me are energy and possibility vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically my hubby, who is a primary earner, he doesn't see my business as real because it has been up and down. When I had children, I had to start working. When his business is busy, I'm on call to go and move machinery. Mm-hmm. And then my health has been fun, and then COVID. So one awareness that came up, though, when you were talking, I've allowed that. I do realize that. Mm-hmm. And that is a big awareness that came last year. But it was really like just then it was like, okay, you really did allow that. So I understood what you said. And, up here, I understand it. And I be it too. A lot of the times I coach it.
Yeah.
So it's a do what I say, not what I do feeling, mm-hmm. which is a little bit like the health thing. Okay, so the question from that. So for example, his business may earn $500,000 a year, but our expenses are they're so high because we deal with machinery.
Yeah. And
so our bank account is in a overdraft, and it's nearly close to the end of the overdraft.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the guilt. I feel the guilt. And when I talk to him about bringing money in, I then feel guilty about wanting things for myself. Because he's allowed to take money from our house loan, but I'm not for my business. So there's a lot of toing and froing, energy-wise, from me. And I really want to step out of that and just attract more of those two, more than those two clients, and not have that limit that, that's all that'll happen. Because, I've got to go pick the kids up, I've got to move machinery, or he needs me to do something.
Yeah. So what's the question?
I find it hard to step into that being. So I know I just heard what you said to Leslie.
Yes. So hold on, I'm going to even pause you a minute, because what's happened is you've lived this story for so long. It's almost impossible to ask the question to get out of the story, because it's like the story has its tentacles in you, right? And you start to step in a question direction and it pulls you right back into the story.
Yes.
And so try again. What's the question? Or what do you want? Let's start there.
I want to be the vivacious, ball of attraction I used to be.
Yes.
Prior to marriage.
Yeah. So let's even cut that, right? You want to be, is it fair to say you just want to be a vivacious ball of attraction energy?
Yes.
Yes, because even, and I know I just saw that you got it, but for those that are listening to this question, putting that before marriage is almost saying it's impossible, because you're not going to go get divorced tomorrow, right? So even that story of I was that one time, I want to get back there, we can't go back, but what we can is create even a more vivacious, attracting, amazing woman living an amazing money story, right? Yeah. Okay. So there might not even be a question other than we needed to get clear on what you want. So is there a question now that you know that's who you're stepping into, the story, vivacious money attractor and attractor? There's no question, right?
No, there's not. It's being that energy.
Yes.
And and not going into the story. And Nicole, I put this shirt on before the call and got out of something else because it felt empowering. So, wow.
I love it.
So we're empowering things too. Yes.
Yes, right? Because that's what she does. She feels empowered, right? An attractor. And it doesn't have to, there is no guidebook for feeling empowered, because it's what makes you feel empowered, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I see so clearly now.
Yay!
And thank you, Leslie, for leading in with all of that so I could gain also Cassie's coaching before. That really was helpful. And thank you.
Yeah, amazing. And thank you to our cheerleader, who every time, those of you who are just listening on the podcast and don't get to see the video of Nicole's like cheers, I see you on TV. Like, that's when I see you have a, reaction, I'm like, that's her on TV. Like, I just imagine I'm watching you on a show. Yes. So I love it. Very cool. Any other questions that I can support you all with today as we wrap up this sort of bonus question answer time? That's good. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I know that you got some amazing things out of those questions. Make sure to come back and check out what's awesome next time in these women's lives.
Thank you for joining us on the Law of Attraction Manifesting Success Stories show. To learn how to attract more money into your life, go to your favorite book retailer and order Cassie's book, Manifest $10,000.